Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so today we are continuing our reading from the book, The Great Disciples of the Buddha. And we're continuing the journey of Venerable MahaKassapa. So the last time when we read together, we read about Venerable MahaKassapa's relationship with the Buddha, how he came to meet the Buddha, and he was the only one that the Buddha had exchanged robes with. And the Buddha also knew that Venerable Sariputta and Mahamoggallana would not outlive the Buddha, but Venerable Mahākassapa would. And so the Buddha never appointed a successor, but he, in a way, indicated, like, when after his passing, Venerable Mahākassapa would be the most senior to be able to guide the other monks. Then we also read how Venerable Mahākassapa led a very austere life as his practice, and he had some encounters with some deities, including Sakka, who tried to, give him offerings, which he refused. He didn't want special treatment. Yeah, so that was his personality as a practitioner. Yeah, this was Venerable Mahākassapa. So that was a quick summary of what we read before. And today we're going to read about Venerable Mahākassapa's relations with the fellow monks, with his fellow monks. So one as dedicated to the meditative life as the Venerable Mahākassapa cannot be expected to have been eager to accept and train many pupils. And in fact, the canonical texts mention only a few pupils of his. So he was very dedicated to his very strict, austere meditative practices. So usually such a personality, we cannot expect them to be very eager to accept a lot of students. And one of Kassapa's few recorded discourses addressed to the monks deals with the subject of overestimating one's attainments. There may be a monk who declares he has attained to the highest knowledge, that of arahatship. Then the master or a disciple capable of knowing the minds of others examines and questions him. And when they question him, that monk becomes embarrassed and confused. Now, the questioner now understands that the monk had made this declaration through overrating himself out of conceit. Then, considering the reason for it, he sees that this monk has acquired much knowledge of the teaching and proficiency in it, which made him declare his overestimation of himself to be the truth. Penetrating the mind of that monk, he sees that he is still obstructed by the 5 hindrances and has stopped halfway while there is still more to do. So this is from the Anguttara Nikaya. So very interesting. MahaKassapa reminds other monks, don't be, in a way, don't be betrayed by your ego, so to speak, thinking that, oh, you have attained arahatship, yeah, or some high knowledges or high achievements. So he's kind of reminding students to be humble, to check again our tendencies, our ego that keeps hiding, our conceit that keeps hiding, and the 5 hindrances that's just sneaking, in a way, in a sneaky way. Yeah, so he's just reminding. Apart from the few instances where MahaKassapa is speaking to unnamed monks or a group of monks, the texts record only his relationship to Sariputta and Ananda. According to the Jatakas, in former lives, Sariputta was twice the son of Kassapa, twice his brother. Once, too, he was Kassapa's grandson and his friend. And in his verses, Kassapa tells that he once saw thousands of Brahma gods descend from their heaven, pay homage to Sariputta, and praise him. 2 conversations between MahaKassapa and Sariputta have been recorded in the Kassapa Samyutta. And on both occasions, it was in the evening after meditation that Sariputta went to see MahaKassapa. In the first text, Sariputta asks, "It has been said, friend Kassapa, that without ardor and without fear of wrongdoing, one is incapable of gaining enlightenment, incapable of attaining nibbana, incapable of attaining highest security, but that with ardor and with fear of wrongdoing, one is capable of such attainments." Now, in how far is one incapable of such attainments, and in how far is one capable of them? When, friend Sariputta, a monk thinks, if bad and unwholesome states that have so far not arisen in me were to arise, this would bring me harm. And if then he does not arouse ardor and fear of wrongdoing, then he is lacking ardor and fear of wrongdoing. So what this is trying to say, when we see unwholesome thoughts arise or unwholesome states arise, if we don't quickly put effort, in other words, to use the 6 R's to recognize the tension that's arisen due to those unwholesome states of mind that came up. If we don't at that moment apply the 6 R's, recognize, release that tension, relax, re-smile, return to either our task or our object of meditation, then we are lacking in right effort. We are lacking in our practice. When he thinks, if bad or unwholesome states that have now arisen in me are not abandoned, this would bring me harm. Or if unarisen wholesome states were not to arise, this would bring me harm. Or if arisen wholesome states were to vanish, this would bring me harm. If on these occasions too, a monk does not arouse ardor or fear of wrongdoing, then he is lacking in these qualities, and lacking them, he is incapable of attaining enlightenment, incapable of attaining nibbana, incapable of attaining the highest security. So in summary, if an unwholesome state arises, if it has not arisen before and now it's arose, then we apply the 6 R's. Or if it's a reason, and we notice that this is a reason, it will cause me suffering, it will cause me harm, then we apply the 6 R's. If a reason, wholesome states, so the loving kindness, the smiling, the compassion, equanimity, joy, if this is a reason and it has gone away, if we don't try to keep that wholesome state and we don't apply our practice, then we are not capable in our practice. But if a monk on those 4 occasions for right effort arouses ardor and wrong and fear of wrongdoing, then he's capable of attaining enlightenment, capable of attaining nibbana, capable of attaining the higher security. So here, what MahaKassapa is just trying to remind us is we have to always be mindful of our states of mind in our practice. As much as we can, try to remember the practice, applying the right effort again and again and again. And on another occasion, Sariputta asked MahaKassapa whether the Tathagata, the perfect one, exists after death or does not exist after death, or in some sense, both exists and does not exist, or neither exists nor does not exist. And in each case, MahaKassapa replied, this was not declared by the Blessed One. Why not? Because it is of no benefit and does not belong to the fundamentals of the holy life. Because it does not lead to disenchantment, nor dispassion, cessation, inner peace, direct knowledge, enlightenment, and nibbana. But what, friend, did the Blessed One declare? This is suffering. So, friend, has the Blessed One declared, this is the origin of suffering, the cessation of suffering, the way to the cessation of suffering. So, friend, has the Blessed One declared. And why? Because it conduces to benefit and belongs to the fundamentals of the holy life. And because it leads to turning away from worldliness to dispassion, cessation, inner peace, direct knowledge, enlightenment, and nibbana. So what MahaKassapa tries to state here is that the question of whether the Buddha exists or doesn't exist, or half-half, or neither nor, whatever, is not important, doesn't bring any benefit. What does bring benefit is the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. Where is the origin of all suffering, and the way, the Noble Eightfold Path, the way to lead out of that suffering, which is beneficial. So MahaKassapa again reminded us that focus on the beneficial, don't focus on what could be a waste of time. So we have no explanation why Sariputta posed these questions, which for an Arahat should have been fully clear. Yeah, Sariputta would have absolutely known it, of course. It is, however, not impossible that this conversation took place immediately after Kaspa's ordination and before his attainment of Arahatship, and that Sariputta wanted to test his understanding, or perhaps the questions were asked for the sake of other monks who had been present. Okay, so doesn't matter, the context not so important. Okay, the Mahagosinga Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya records a group discussion led by Venerable Sariputta, in which MahaKassapa, along with several other eminent disciples, once participated. At the time, these elders were residing in the Gosina forest along with the Buddha, and a clear moonlit night, they approached Sariputta for a discussion on the Dhamma. That night, Sariputta declared, "Delightful is this Gosina Sala tree forest. There's a clear moonlit night. The Sala trees are in full bloom, and it seems as if celestial scents are being wafted around." Then he asked each distinguished elder in the group, Ananda, Revata, Anuruddha, MahaKassapa, and Mahamoggallana, what kind of monk could lend more luster to that forest? So clear moonlit night, beautiful forest, trees are in full bloom, and even celestial scents. It's like almost like, let's think of it as perfume, but not the crude scents that we are familiar with, that's being sold in supermarkets, and more of really nice scents, as though devas are around, let's put it that way, or higher beings are present. So Sariputta asked them, the five of them, what kind of monk would then add more brightness, more luster to that kind of a forest, which is already very bright and clear and delightful? And MahaKassapa, like the others, replied according to his own temperament. Here, friend Sariputta, a monk is himself a forest dweller, and he speaks in praise of forest dwelling, because MahaKassapa always lived in the forest, and he didn't want to live in like a monastery. So that was his practice, even till he was old. He is himself an alms food collector, and he speaks in praise of collecting alms food. He is himself a rag robe wearer, and he speaks in praise of wearing rag robes. He is himself a triple robe wearer, and he speaks in praise of wearing the triple robe. He himself has few wishes, is content, secluded, and aloof from society, and he speaks in praise of each of these qualities. He himself has attained to the virtue, to concentration, to wisdom, to liberation, and to knowledge and vision of liberation, and he speaks in praise of each of these attainments. This is the kind of monk who could lend more luster to this Gosingasala tree forest. So in a way, he's saying that the qualities that he holds to in his practice, such qualities, he didn't say he would lend more luster himself. He's just saying that such qualities in a monk would make that Sala tree forest even brighter. According to tradition, MahaKassapa also had close connections in the former lives with the Venerable Ananda. Ananda had twice been his brother, once his son, once even the murderer of his son. Gosh. And in this life, he was his pupil. The Kassapa Samyutta likewise had two conversations between them. They concerned practical questions, while those with Sariputta referred to points of doctrine. On the first occasion, Ananda asked Kassapa to accompany him to the nuns' quarters. Kassapa, however, refused and asked Ananda to go alone. But Ananda seemed to be intent on getting Kassapa to give a Dhamma talk to the nuns, and repeated his request twice. So Kassapa finally consented and went along. The result, however, turned out to be quite different from what Ananda had expected. After the discourse, one of the nuns, Tulatissa by name, raised her voice to make a rather offensive remark. How could Master Kassapa presume to speak on the Dhamma in the presence of Master Ananda, the learned sage? This is as if a needle peddler wanted to sell a needle to the needle maker. Now, it's quite well known that the Venerable Ananda was well respected and rather, maybe popular is not the correct word, but a lot of the nuns looked up to Venerable Ananda, because it was Venerable Ananda that went to the Buddha to request that a Bhikkhuni order be set up. So that time was, the Buddha's mother, the queen, who had very much wanted to be ordained, and a number of the ladies in the royal court, I believe, noble women, things like that. So it wasn't immediately after the Buddha had formed the Bhikkhu Sangha that the Bhikkhuni Sangha was formed. It was later. And so Venerable Ananda, out of compassion, I guess, for the group of women, including the Buddha's mother, kind of felt that, there should be an order of the nuns. And so the nuns kind of maybe felt a little bit out of gratitude, I guess. That's why they kind of see Venerable Ananda in high regards. However, Tulatissa kind of maybe took it a little bit too far by saying rather, MahaKassapa, like, how dare you try and speak of the Dhamma in front of Venerable Ananda. What she probably didn't know was that it was Venerable Ananda that invited MahaKassapa to go and give a talk. Right? So obviously this nun preferred the gentle preaching of Ananda to Kassapa's stern and sometimes critical approach, which may have touched on her own weaknesses. So Venerable Ananda is more soft-spoken, and so probably his style of teaching the Dhamma would be softer. MahaKassapa, as we can tell from his personality, practices like this. We need to be put in right effort, and his own practice is very austere, always in the forest, always on arms round for food. So when Kassapa heard the nun's remarks, he asked Ananda, "How is it, friend Ananda? Am I the needle peddler and you the needle maker? Or am I the needle maker and you the needle peddler?" And Ananda replied, "Be indulgent, Venerable Sir. She is a foolish woman. Beware, friend Ananda, or else the Sangha may further investigate you." How is it, friend Ananda? Was it you whom the exalted one, the Buddha, extolled in the presence of the Sangha, saying, "I, O monks, can attain at will the four fine material and immaterial meditative absorptions, the jhanas, the cessation of perception and feeling, the 6 supernormal knowledges, and Ananda too can so attain?" "No, Venerable Sir." "Or did he say Kassapa too can so attain?" From the above account, we can see that the Venerable MahaKassapa did not think that Ananda's conciliatory reply was adequate or did full justice to the situation. Latissa's remark showed her personal attachment to Ananda, who had always been a favorite with women and who had also given his strong support to the founding of the Bhikkhuni Sangha. And this emotional relation of two Tisas to Ananda could not be put aside just by Ananda's general remark. Hence, Kassapa responded in a way which at first glance appears rather harsh. Beware, or else the Sangha may further investigate you. So MahaKassapa had a point there, because he felt that the way Venerable Ananda answered as a rebuttal to Tulatisa's remark wasn't strong enough. And so if it's not strong enough, it may, what MahaKassapa is trying to warn Ananda is, if you don't rebut back strong enough, then other people may start thinking, what, is there something going on? You know, why is Ananda always siding the nuns too much? So he's warning, as a friend, he's warning Venerable Ananda. With these words, he wanted to warn Ananda to avoid becoming too involved in ministering to the nuns, since they might become too fond of him and cause others to entertain doubts with him. So it's not that Venerable Ananda is doing anything wrong, but because he is not strong enough, it may arouse suspicions. So I just saw something in the chat which I didn't see earlier. Handbags at dawn. Sorry, I'm not sure I understand what the phrase means. Handbags at dawn. Sorry, Pai, could you explain a little bit what you mean by that? Handbags at dawn. I'm a little bit clueless. Means confrontation. Yes, yes. Confrontation, but in the sense of trying to help him, kind of confrontation. So we shouldn't see MahaKassapa's action as trying to scold Venerable Ananda, but rather to help him. We should see that way, that he was actually trying to help him. British humor, okay. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. I'm glad you're enjoying this. I'm enjoying this too. We all know that Venerable Ananda was always favored by the nuns. And there were a couple of stories where his demeanor actually caused himself harm, unfortunately. So it's good that he has a friend like MahaKassapa who warns him. You know, sometimes we need friends like this because sometimes we may not know better. Let's put it that way. So personally, from my point of view, I think Venerable Ananda is lucky to have a friend like this in MahaKassapa. Okay. Kassapa's reply has therefore to be seen as the earnest advice of a taint-free arhat to one who had not yet reached that state. So at that point, Venerable Ananda hadn't become an arhat yet. When immediately after, Kassapa stressed that it was his own meditative attainments that the Buddha had extolled and not Ananda's. This may be taken as pointing to the far different spiritual status of the two elders, and it may have served as a spur to Ananda to strive for those attainments. The nun Tulatisa, however, left the order. So unfortunately, she couldn't see the wisdom of MahaKassapa to, in a way, was trying to teach her as well. She couldn't see that because of her hindrances, her ego, etc., etc. We all know too well. Another conversation between the Venerable MahaKassapa and Ananda arose on the following occasion. Once, the Venerable Ananda went on a walking tour in the southern hills together with a large company of monks. Paul asked, was this after the Buddha's death? Ananda was an arhat at the time. I think this was before. Again, I don't know the sequence of events here. I'm assuming that this was before the Buddha's passing. I'm assuming. And I don't think Ananda was an arhat immediately after the Buddha's passing, though. There was a certain period of time, but I think Ananda attained arhathood just before the first Buddhist council, because the story went that the monks had asked, this was probably several months, I don't know, anyone can correct me, this was probably several months after the Buddha's passing, and then the monks had asked to have a kind of a presiding, it was then called the first Buddhist council, and at the first Buddhist council, Mahākassapa was asked to preside as the most senior disciple, and they were very strict at the time. The first Buddhist council, only arhats were allowed to attend the first Buddhist council, and initially Venerable Ananda, who was not an arhat yet at that time, was barred initially from attending the first Buddhist council. However, the story goes just the night before the first Buddhist council, when just as Venerable Ananda was about to go to retire, just as he lied down, he attained arhathood, is the story. Yeah. And so because of that, then he was allowed to attend the first Buddhist council, is the story. Okay. So I would assume that such conversations here that we're reading right now is before. Strange that he's an Anagami, insisted that Mahākassapa. Well, the way I see it is that because he knew that he himself wasn't an arhat, and Ananda obviously always had a compassion towards the nuns' well-being and study of the Dhamma, let's say, study of the practice of Dhamma. So he probably, I would think that Venerable Ananda wouldn't only have approached Mahākassapa, probably would have approached a lot of the other senior monks as well. But it's kind of like, you know, if one feels, I mean, I speak from, let's say, my own personal, if I know another monk who's more knowledgeable, more senior than me, and I feel for the nuns, let's say, then I, of course, will invite the more senior, more knowledgeable monks, more experienced, to come and give a talk to the nuns. I wouldn't give the talk myself if I have access to the more senior monks. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question? Yeah, okay, cool. All right. So if there are no further questions, let's continue. But this is good. Please continue raising questions. Now we go to, right, okay, another conversation. So they were at Southern Hills, and this was a time when 30 mostly young monks, pupils of Ananda, had given up the robe and had returned to the lay life. And after Ananda had ended his tour, he came to Rajgarh and went to see the Venerable MahaKassapa. And when he had saluted him and was seated, Kassapa said this: "What are the reasons, friend Ananda, for the sake of which the Blessed One had said that no more than 3 monks should take their alms meal among families?" "There are 3 reasons, Venerable Sir. It is for restraining ill-behaved persons, for the well-being of good monks, and out of consideration for the lay families. This is a very interesting precept. Vinaya rule. No more than 3 months if they were to go to visit, to eat at the lay families, okay? Then, friend Ananda, why do you go on a tour with those young new monks whose senses are unrestrained, who are not moderate in eating and not devoted to wakefulness, meaning mindfulness in the practice? It seems you behave like one trampling the corn. It seems you destroy the faith of the families. Your following is breaking up. Your new starters are falling away. This youngster truly does not know his own measure. So here again, MahaKassapa, although MahaKassapa sounds a little bit harsh, and this is probably why the reason why the nun Tulatisa left, is he does seem quite harsh as a teacher, because of his personality. But we all know that the strictest of teachers actually mean well. Yeah. And he meant well, but he was very blunt, very direct. He's saying to Ananda, you know very well the Buddha laid this rule. So why did you go against this rule? And these new young monks, they are not well trained yet. And you bring them along. By doing so, you're actually destroying the faith of the lay people. That means making the lay people's faith in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha go down. He says, you don't understand. You yourself don't know your own measure. You yourself are don't have a full understanding of your capability. Gray hairs are now on my head, Venerable Sir, and still we cannot escape being called youngster by the Venerable MahaKassapa. So I'm guessing this was when Venerable Ananda himself wasn't so young anymore. But Venerable MahaKassapa was really, very direct and saying, hey, you youngster, come on. By saying to Venerable Ananda, youngster, he kind of meant, in a sense, not lacking in wisdom, let's say, was that sense, not in age, but in wisdom to be able to lead a group of younger monks. But the Venerable MahaKassapa repeated the very same words he's spoken, so he was very firm as a teacher. And this could have ended the matter, as Ananda did not deny that the reproach was justified. Yes, so Venerable Ananda couldn't disagree because the young monks weren't ready and he didn't quite know how to discipline them well enough. Yeah, so he couldn't disagree. And he objected only to the hurtful way in which MahaKassapa had expressed his censure. So we have to understand it's a little bit of clash of character as well. So personality. So Ananda is very soft-spoken, very gentle. MahaKassapa is very strict, austere practice. We have to practice in this way, as we have read before. So it is rather more like a clash of personality here, not so much of the understanding of the teaching, more of just personality. Do I see a question? I thought I saw a question. No question. Okay, right, so let's continue. In response to the admonition, Ananda would have tried to keep his pupils under stricter discipline. But again, this matter was complicated by a nun, another nun, Tulananda this time, who, along with Tulatissa, was one of the black sheep of the Bhikkhuni Sangha. And she had heard that Ananda had been called a youngster by the Venerable MahaKassapa, and full of indignation, she voiced her protest, saying that Kassapa had no right to criticize a wise monk like Ananda, as Kassapa had formerly been an ascetic of another sect. And in that way, Thulananda diverted the matter of monastic discipline into personal detraction bordering on calumny. For, as our earlier account had shown, Kassapa had originally gone forth as an independent ascetic, not as a follower of another school. So she kind of criticized Mahākassapa, but didn't have her facts right as well when she criticized. Thulananda soon left the order, just as the other wayward nun Thulatissa had done. When the Venerable MahaKassapa heard Thulananda's utterance, he said to Ananda, "Rash and thoughtless are the words spoken by Thulananda the nun. Since I left the home life, I have had no other teacher than the Blessed One, the Arhat, the fully enlightened one." Then he related the story of his first meeting with the Buddha, which we had read earlier. So actually, when we read, the character of Venerable MahaKassapa, sometimes it's good. This is my personal opinion again, so feel free to debate. But I kind of feel sometimes it's good to have a personality like Venerable MahaKassapa in the Sangha as a way of check and balance, we need sometimes people like him with that kind of a very strict personality to make sure that things are in order, especially when we have younger members of the Sangha who might still not yet be firmly rooted in their practice. And so we need such characters, such personalities to be very firm and to not hesitate to say something very strictly. Because if he didn't step in, anything we don't know, there might be schism in the Sangha, or trouble in the Sangha if he had not done so, if he had not stepped in. So the way I see it is not only just a matter of Venerable MahaKassapa trying to teach Ananda or the nuns or whatever. The way I see it is, Venerable MahaKassapa was doing his utmost best to keep the Sangha in good order as well. Because the Sangha is also responsible for the prolongation of the Dhamma, the Buddha's teachings. So that's how I see it, that he was just doing his best to make sure the order is kept secure for the sake of the Buddha's dispensation. So his compassion was much further than just the monks or nuns. Let's see, let's have a quick look to see how long the next chapter is. That's about the Buddha's passing. So what say you? Shall we leave that for the next reading, or what would you prefer? Any thoughts from those who've dialed in? I think it will take probably it's about 3, 4, 4.5 pages. So I'm guessing probably another 20 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes or so. What do you think? Any comments, or should we pause here?
Yes, I think we can pause here. That was very interesting reading, May. As you said, it is good to think so deeply, read between the lines, and as you rightly said, it is very, very interesting that I guess we have to have faith, don't we, to understand the deep Dhamma, have the trust to realize, and also not take anything personally, and see what is he talking about, and understand and relate to us. Maybe that kind of a understanding or checking was lacking with these two nuns. It is sad that they've left the order. They must have had a strong faith to start with to enter the order, and it is a bit sad that they wasn't able to kind of understand the deep Dhamma.
Yes, that's a very good point, Madam Nanda. It is very sad. Till today, there are lots of monastics that after a while realize that the monastic life isn't what they were looking for, and then they would return to the lay life. Personally, I don't know many, but from what I heard or what I've observed, a lot of times and I could be wrong, yeah, so don't take my word for it, but a lot of times, sometimes people leave the monastic life because they had a certain view of how the monastic life would be. So they probably pictured a dream, let's say, of monastic life is going to be this. I'm going to be able to practice my practice. I'm going to be secluded from the rest of the world and be done with all the sufferings of the world, and I will just spend my time practicing. People will feed me and blah, blah, blah. And then when they join the monastic, and then there's all this training and all these rules and all these living together with others, again, living together with others. And sometimes, maybe suddenly for some, like a wake-up call, like as though, I didn't buy myself into the monastery for this in return. But there could be many reasons why people join the monastic order, reasons beyond what we can see. Personally, again, this is my own personal opinion. The way I see it is, if a person wants to join the monastic order, and if they do manage to, they would have had some merits. It's not easy it's not like we can just say, rock up to a monastery and just say, hey, hello, I want to be a monk or a nun today. Can I get ordained? Can I have my hair shaved? Can I get a set of robes? And it's not so easy. One would have had, either in this life or in many previous lives, accumulated enough merits to be able to secure a spot. And then again, also to be able to continue being a monk or a nun, to have had acquired enough merits to sustain that as well. It does take a certain amount of merits, so for whatever reason, people leave the Sangha. But even some people who leave it, they still maintain their practice. They still keep the precepts, they still practice. Some do, yeah. So I tend to think nowadays more than, again, this is my own personal opinion, more than before, that I have absolutely no right to judge anyone, least of all myself, because we cannot see, we are not the Buddha. We cannot see. I cannot even see my previous lives, we cannot see other people's previous lives. We cannot see the causes and conditions, how they got here, and so I tend to not bother myself with such thoughts so much nowadays. But like you said, Madam Nanda, you had a good point that the faith in the triple gem, and not taking things personally, keep reminding ourselves, I don't want to take this personally. This has nothing to do with me. What's happening right now in my life or in the life of others, not take it personally, not take, easier said than done, right? But true, it is by having faith in the triple gem. And that faith comes after practice. It's like a cycle, the way I see it. The more we practice, the more we see the results in the practice, the more our faith increases in the triple gem. And then from that increase in the faith, we again further take our practice to the next level, and then it goes through that cycle again, is how I see it. And the more we practice the 6 R's, the more we start to see, this is the reason why I should not take things so personally. I should, follow the teachings of the Buddha. The other day after I mentioned it, I went to read again the Mahākassapa Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, just to see what the Buddha taught Rahula, his son, right? And then I was like, oh, there's a lot of wisdom in that. A lot of his teachings was just packed in one discourse. And it's in the middle length discourse, not even in the Digha Nikaya. So much was packed in just the Mahārahula Vada Sutta, There's a lot of gems we have. The Buddha really left us so much, so much, so much. So it's a journey. It's a very interesting journey as well. So yeah. Now the fact that we are here reading this is also due to causes and conditions as well. So yeah, that's why Bhante Vimalaramsi used to say, don't take things so seriously, don't take things so personally, and I always, now more than ever, and nowadays I use what Bhante Vimalaramsi used to say when I teach my students music as well. So I teach music, but I use a lot of techniques in I call it neuroplasticity in action. But I tell them as well, it's all a game. It's a game. The more we think of it as a game, something will click in our mind, our brain. It will click at some point, and then hopefully that just keeps clicking, as we continue to rewire our habitual tendencies, is how I see it. It's all a game of rewiring our habitual tendencies. But yeah, totally, Madam Nanda, totally agree. It is sad, but it's still happening. There are a lot of sad things still happening in the world today. But at the same time, there's also a lot of beautiful things that are happening all around us as well, every single day as well. Yeah. But I'm glad that you're enjoying this as much as I am. I'm glad that just earlier as I was washing the dishes, it came, was I was washing the dishes or was I in the bathroom? I can't remember, but the thought came to me that, oh gee, I am lucky. I am lucky to be given this opportunity to read this book with you all. So I'm very grateful for that as well. Sorry, there I go again, off tangent. Any other comments or questions, Madam Nanda or Paul? Feel free to jump in. No? Okay then. Let's share some merit. Yeah. Right. Let me see if I can fit this into one page. There we go. Okay, let us share some merit together. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, May. That was great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for your questions, comments, etc. as well. Very nice. And I wish you all a very, very good, wholesome week ahead. To those who dial in, or Madam Nanda Pai dropped off. I think he had somewhere to go, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a full moon day today. Yeah.
All right, okay. Brilliant. Moon is so big and round on these days.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So I wish you all a very, very pleasant week ahead. Peace and happiness. And also to the same to all those who will be listening to the recording. Next week, I won't be online. I have to go to bed earlier because I have a very, very early morning flight on the 21st. So I will need some sleep. I'll need to sleep earlier. So Bhante Dhamma Gavesi will lead, will facilitate, will lead, will give a Dhamma talk next Sunday on the 20th. Okay. Topic I'm not sure yet, but it will be announced.
Thank you. Safe journey. Enjoy your flight.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.